All right, let's prove the product rule using the definition. All right, so product rule goes like this. So derivative of the product of f of x and g of x is equal to f prime of x plus times g of x plus f of x times g prime of x. All right, so let's prove that. So by definition, the derivative of f times g is limit, right, as t approaches x, then you have f of t times g of t minus f of x times g of x all over t minus x. Alright, then we're going to do an add and subtract trick. So you can see that we want to get the f prime somewhere. So in order to get f prime, so I wrote down the definition of f prime and g prime. So in order to get f prime, we will have to have f of t minus f of x over x minus t. Right? So f of t is already here. So what we need is f of x. So what we can do is this. Right? So you have a limit as t approaches x. Right? I'm gonna expand the numerator a bit by using an add and subtract trick. So you have f of t and a g of t. And I put the second term at the very end, so it's a minus f of x and times g of x. Right? Then we have t minus x on the bottom. Right? So we're gonna subtract. So since we want to have f of x, so we're gonna subtract f of x, and then we're gonna put the same thing, g of t here. And then you cannot just subtract something, so we're gonna just add exactly the same thing back on. Alright, then what we get is this. Alright, we're gonna split the limit, split the fraction quotient into two separate fractions. Alright, so first thing I would do is I'm gonna group the first two terms together and the last two terms together. Alright, so since g of t is in common in the first two, so I'm gonna pull out the g of t. Right? Then you would have, so what's left is f of t from this term, and the minus f of x from this term. Then you still have to divide by t minus x. Right? So that's the first two terms. Right? So there's a plus sign there. Alright, so f of x is in common, so we put the f of x outside, in front, I should say. Alright, so from the first term, you're going to have g of t left over, minus, from the second term, you have g of x left over. Then you have to divide by x minus x. Still, we have to distribute the division there. Alright, then what we need to do is just take the limit, right? But you can see that we know the definition. So this guy right here, right? So this one right here, as x approaches x. So this is just the definition of f prime. So this guy approaches f prime of x, right? Maybe I should say approaches, right? And g of t as t approaches x, so this guy approaches g of x. Right? F of x is constant because it has nothing to do with t. Right? But here, this guy approaches, this is just the definition of g prime, so this approaches g prime of x. Alright, then therefore, so we are actually using the sum property of the limit and also multiplication product property of the limit too. Alright, but what you get is f prime of x from here times g of x plus f of x, and that's a constant multiple rule. Then you have a g prime of x. Alright, so which is exactly what we wanted to get. Alright, so this proves the product rule for derivative. Alright, that's it. I hope that this was clear.